the Golden State Warriors are not done yet. Chris Paul still has a chance of winning a ring. We don't know exactly how they're going to make it work yet, but we have some interesting points to consider. The first thing is what Steve Kerr mentioned to ESPN a few days ago. He said that the Warriors committed a lot of turnovers last year. With a smart player like Chris, he's going to allow the Warriors to improve drastically in that area. He averaged 8.9 assists and only 1.9 turnovers last season. On the other hand, Golden State was first in turnovers. That is going to be fixed with this one off-season move. Remember at Game 4 against the Lakers, they committed 3 horrible turnovers in the final 3.5 minutes that cost them the game and put them in a 3-1 series deficit. I doubt they would have made the same mistakes if CP3 was on the court. A lot of people are saying that the Warriors will have to play slower to accommodate the 38-year-old point guard. And this is the same team that finished with the highest pace in the league last season. But I don't think this should be too big of a concern. For one, he won't be the Warriors' full-time point guard. He averaged only 32 minutes per game in 2023, and it's highly unlikely that he's going to play any more than that. He won't compromise their offense or change their identity while playing about 30 minutes a game. I also believe it wouldn't be such a bad thing if they slowed things down a bit. That would limit the number of unforced errors, and he would ensure that they will get a good shot when needed. Remember when Chris Paul joined James Harden in the Houston Rockets in 2017, and he was asked to change the way he played? His preferred style isn't to go ISO or to stand around watching James Harden. But the experiment worked. They ended up having one of the most dominant seasons of all time, and they were so close to finishing the year with a title. I don't consider myself the biggest basketball expert in the world, but I can say for certainty that it's a lot easier to play with Steph Curry than with James Harden. If he can make it work with the beard, he can make it work with Jeff Curry. I think they can make magic on the court, and they will make their jobs so much easier. That's what great players do. As Steve Kerr mentioned, he's an incredibly smart player. I have no doubts that he will make the necessary adjustments and figure out how to make the Warriors an even greater offensive team. He's done that for all 5 teams that he has played for. Why would we think it would be any different for a team that has won 4 championships? Would it be better if he were to come off the bench or start? I would look to start him. I think you want him to play with his core as much as possible. If this experiment is going to work, he's going to have to play an integral role in the offense. The way the season ended last year taught us that Curry needs some help to win games in the playoffs. They were relying too much on him. Adding Chris gives him another player that can create offense for himself and for others. We know that Curry is so lethal when he doesn't have the ball. He's constantly moving, and that creates open opportunities for his teammates. This worked to perfection for years with Draymond Green handling the offense. Now imagine the possibilities with arguably the greatest floor general handling the ball. He's going to make a smart decision every time. I believe that Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, and Kevin Looney will benefit greatly from his decision making. Klay could have a bounce back year. Wiggins averaged nearly 40% from the 3 last season, and that could potentially go up. And we know he's going to throw the prettiest lobs to Kevin and Jonathan Kuminga. I honestly have no concerns with how he's going to fit with this team on offense. But on the defensive end, this could potentially cause some problems. At 38 years old, he's not the defensive stopper he used to be. Neither is Klay Thompson. And Steph Curry isn't exactly an all-NBA defender. The Warriors were at most an average defensive team last season, and this move doesn't make them any better. However, bringing back Gary Payton II was a big move that they made last year before the trade deadline. I believe he's going to play a big role in this team. This could allow them to split the difference and get some stops on the perimeter. Then we have what Draymond Green can do. By adding Chris Paul, his role in the offense would be even more limited. But this could allow him to focus all of his energy on defense. Let's not forget that the Warriors finished first in defensive rating in their championship winning season, and then they dropped to 17th last year. That was a big part of their identity that was missing. So maybe he can prove why he's a self-proclaimed greatest defensive player of all time by leading this team on that end of the floor. The last thing that every Warriors fan should be concerned about is if they can stay healthy. By the time the playoffs start, Paul will be 39 years old, Curry will be 36, and both Klay and Draymond will be 34. That is an old core. Their minutes will have to be monitored to avoid any serious injuries. With Chris Paul, he always seems to get injured in the worst possible time. With this team's advanced age, it's not completely out of the question that 2 or 3 of those players miss a good chunk of games because of health. I must put the warning out there that this season could end in disaster. But let's look at the other side of things. We know that this core isn't too concerned about the regular season. They don't care about winning over 60 games as they used to. It's all about getting themselves ready for the playoffs. They also know that time is against them. This will most likely be Chris Paul's last chance to play a significant role for a championship winning team before he'll be forced to play the Udonis Haslem role. Time is also ticking for the original Big Three. I don't think it's logical to expect a team with 4 key players over the age of 35 to win a title. That just never happens, especially in today's league. I think deep down that they know this, even if they never publicly admit it. This could be their secret last dance before they ride off into the sunset. Their one last championship run before age limits them even further. There's nothing more motivating than fighting against your mortality and proving to the world that you still got it. The good news is that the Western Conference didn't get any better. I don't think the Denver Nuggets are the overwhelming favorites to repeat, and someone else can take the mantle. Why not the Golden State Warriors? Do you think this could be their year? How do you think the Chris Paul experiment will work out for them? I would love to hear everyone's take on this with your comments. Thanks for watching.